Hi everyone, and welcome back to Blatantly Bookish. I'm Marissa, and today I'm here with the Books and Tea tag. I was so kindly tagged by Katie from Books and Things, and I'll link her version of this video down below in the description. Today was just the perfect day to do this tag. It's a cozy fall day, and I made a cup of my favorite kind of tea, and that is Alice tea is what I call it, but it's from Disney World. It was a gift from my aunt who lives in Florida, so I think you can only get it at official Disney places, but it's not really called Alice tea. It's called Mad Tea Party Blend, the official unbirthday tea, which I really enjoy. So, gonna have a sip. So good. Okay, so on to the books. So the first tea is Breakfast Tea, and that's a book that is a strong staple. For this one, I had to go with Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. This was the first Austen book that I read, and it's just classic Austen. It's the book that if you're trying to read Jane Austen for the first time, I would highly recommend it. I feel like it's one that a lot of people are familiar with. Not necessarily her best, but her most famous, I think. Next one is Earl Grey, and I quite like Earl Grey as well. It's a book that is classic and sophisticated, but with a bit of a twist. And for this one, I went with Animal Farm by George Orwell. So it's a classic, and I think that a lot of people study it and read it in school. It's sophisticated in the sense that it talks about serious topics, the Russian Revolution, communism, but obviously there's a huge twist, which is that the characters are all farm animals, and they're supposed to represent major players in the Russian Revolution, like Stalin, Lenin, Trotsky. It's been a while since I read this one, or since I've studied Russian history, but I do remember that it was a very fresh take on a very serious topic. So the next book is Chai, and I love chai. It's one of my favorite types of teas. I've been extremely into the Tazo brand of chai lately, which is strange because I hate all Tazo teas except for chai, apparently. This is an exotic book set in a country different to your own. And so for this one, I picked Homeless Bird by Gloria Whelan. It's a YA book that I read when I was probably in 5th or 6th grade, and I read it as part of a mother-daughter book club. And actually, that's the only book club I've ever been a part of. It takes place in India, and it's about a young girl named Koli. It deals with concepts of arranged marriages, dowry, and just tradition in India's culture. Apparently it was inspired by a newspaper article about 13-year-old widows in India today, which is really interesting because I always imagined that it took place a long, long time ago. I don't remember much about the book, but I do remember how amazing I thought it was, and I should probably honestly reread it because it's starting to fade very quickly from my memory. So the next tea is Peppermint Tea, and that's an invigorating book. Now, I only drink peppermint tea when I'm sick, and the equivalence of sickness for reading is sort of a reading slump. So for this one, I'm picking a book that got me out of a reading slump in high school, and that is The Secret Life of Bees by Sue Monk Kidd. So this is a fantastic book. It's a coming-of-age story about the character of Lily, who has a very blurred memory of her mother's death when she was younger. She comes from an abusive background, and it's just a fascinating coming-of-age story. She finds all of these wonderful mother figures, and in the process learns more about her mother and more about herself. It's a delightful book that, if you haven't read it yet, you should definitely take a look at it. So the next tea is green tea, and that is a refreshing and different kind of book. I don't actually like green tea that much, but I do really love the series of books that I chose for this one, and that is Chew. They're a series of graphic novels that surround this character called Tony Chew. Chew, obviously the title is C-H-E-W, but Chew, the main character, is C-H-U. So I think that's really cute and clever, and this book is full of really cute, clever things like that. He's a detective, and he has a secret, and that secret is that he is a Chibopath, or Sebopath. I don't know how you would pronounce this. It means that he gets psychic impressions from whatever he eats. He becomes a detective in the FDA, and in this sort of alternate universe, the FDA is almost like the FBI. Food plays a major part in this. It's a world where chicken is outlawed, which is strange, but if you read the book, you'll understand. And basically, he's inducted into the FDA, and they require him to nibble on corpses of victims to figure out what happened. It's fascinating, and if you read more into the series, you'll discover that he's not the only one with unique food-related gifts. Definitely a whimsical and wonderful read. I really highly recommend it. So the next book is Assam Tea, and that is a strong and rich read. For me, that would be Wuthering by Emily Bronte. It's just such a strong book. There's so much to discuss and unpack in it. And I started reading it again this weekend for the read-along I'm hosting. And all I can say right now, I'm sure I'll talk about it a lot more later in future videos, is that it's strong enough to hold up to multiple readings, and it hasn't been disappointing me. It's just so raw and rich and emotional. And I'll link a video down below if you're interested in joining the read-along or learning more about the read-along, and I'd love for you to join. So the next tea is a chamomile tea. It's a cozy bedtime read. I don't like chamomile tea so much because it makes me doze off. Obviously that's the point of it, but it's not my favorite. For this tea, I picked Uncle Wiggily's Storybook. I remember my parents reading this to me when I was younger as a bedtime story. It's a super dated book. I think it was written in the early 1900s, and it's full of all sorts of quirky characters. Uncle Wiggily is a bunny rabbit gentleman, that's how they refer to him. And there are lots of animal characters like Toodle and Noodle, who are beavers, Nurse Jane Fuzzy Wuzzy, who's Uncle Wiggily's housekeeper. And all the stories are titled Uncle Wiggily something or other. So there's Uncle Wiggily's Toothache, Uncle Wiggily's Halloween, Uncle Wiggily and the Measles, Uncle Wiggily and the Birthday Cake. You get it. So the stories and the characters definitely have a sleepy and playful chamomile tea vibe to them. So the next tea is rose tea, and that's a flowery and gentle read. And for this one, I'm going to be going with The 13th Tale by Diane Setterfield. I am currently reading this book, and I am loving it. I don't know if it's gentle. I don't think I read many gentle books at all, but its language is impeccable. Just the way everything is described and how it flows into the next thought. It's really impressive. It's top-notch writing, and like a flower, the plot is blooming so slowly and steadily. It's wonderful. I'll definitely be talking a lot more about this book when I finish it. So the next tea is not a tea at all, it is Milk, which is a book to take the edge off. And for this one, I'm going with Anything by David Sedaris. He writes funny little essay short story type works. They're often really humorous and contain a sort of sarcastic and self-deprecating humor to them. I wouldn't call it the best literature, but it's certainly entertaining, and it definitely fits the criteria of taking the edge off of things. The next tea is again not a tea, but is Sugar, which is a sweet book. I don't read many sweet books. Most of the books that I read have some sort of not-so-sweet underbelly to them, but the book that I chose is Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants by Anne Brashares. It's about 4 girls who have been best friends since birth. They're embarking on their first summer apart from each other, and they find a pair of jeans that magically fit and flatter all of them, despite their different body types and styles. They form the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, and they keep in touch by sending the pants, along with letters to each other throughout the summer. It's a really touching book about friendship, and it was made into a movie. I think there are actually 5 books in the series, but I only read the first 2 or 3, even though I loved them. I don't think I knew there were more at the time. I read them a while ago. They're pretty sweet. So thanks for watching, guys. That's the end of the Books and Tea tag. My tea is unfortunately lukewarm at this point, and I will need to either reheat it or make another cup. But if you liked this video, please comment down below. I'd love to hear what you thought of any of these books, if you've read them, if you want to read them, what's your favorite type of tea? And I look forward to seeing you in another video soon. Bye!